national parks all throughout the United States. Anybody can name a national park that's not North Dakota?
Yellowstone?
Yeah, Yellowstone. That's the world's first national park.
Yeah. Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore, you bet. Those are all national parks. I brought a few of these maps and I'll leave them in your classroom, but it's a map of the United States with all the national parks. So there's a little dot where every place where there's United States. Oh. So you can see on this map all the places all throughout. So
What's in Alaska?
there's a lot in Alaska. Alaska has more acreage in national parks.
And Alaska's the size of
And in Knife River, we do a lot more than just talk about this stuff. I think I probably saw some of you guys earlier in the year when I was here with Smokey the Bear.
Yeah, I remember you.
The Skalsky's husband, he was here too, right? That day? Yeah, right.
I saw it.
Yep, and so I was here with you. So we do things like fire, but let's get on. We don't have a lot of time, so we'll get on with this stuff. Knife River, the Hidatsa lived there for hundreds of years. You can actually walk to a village, and then what we protect there a lot are what we call the village sites. It kind of looks like a grass field. Can I write? I can't write on this.
No.
It's a grass field, and in that field you see these big circular depressions, like kind of look like big bowls in the grass. And each place there used to be an earth lodge there, and that's kind of what we protect are these archaeological sites. Who knows what archaeology is? Or an archaeologist. What do archaeologists do? Any ideas?
They study history and all that stuff, and they look for lots of stuff.
Yeah, they study items from the past to learn about a past culture. And I brought a lot of artifacts today that's going to fit right into the Hidatsa and the Mandan. Well, the Hidatsa lived at Knife River Indian villages, like I said, for hundreds of years. You can walk to a village that had earth lodges in it for like 250 years. So if you think about how long that is, the United States hasn't even been a country for as long as by Stanton there was a town of earth lodges. So for a really long time there's lots of history, and we protect that history through telling people about it and by protecting the artifacts that are there. Do you guys know what the Hidatsa and the Mandan, what were they known for? They lived in earth lodges, but what was one of their main things that you'd think about if you thought about them?
Farming?
Yep, farming. They were farmers. Who were the farmers? The men or the women? The men?
The women.
Yeah, it was the women. The women were the farmers. And in an earth lodge, maybe 20 people or so would live in an earth lodge. And the woman would build that earth lodge, and the woman would own that earth lodge, and all the women that lived in that earth lodge would also farm together. And their gardens, they had gardens, and these gardens would be up to 2 acres in size. Does anybody have an idea how big an acre is? How about, who knows how big a football field is? You guys see the football, like the track up there, inside the track? That's about, the whole inside of the track is maybe 2 acres, a little less. So if you think of that, how much space that is, that's how big of a garden these women had. As big as 2 football fields. So it's pretty big, huh? And you guys know what kind of crops they grow? Corn. Not wheat. Squash. Beans. Like a squash is type of pumpkin, I think. Sunflowers. Those are the types. And these are the type of tools they would have. Yeah, a rake, huh? What's this rake made out of? Deer. Deer.
That looks like it's been
Yeah, it's even been used.
It looks like a scotcher.
So that's one of the tools they use. So what tool is this?
A hoe. Shovel.
A hoe or shovel. You can use it like a shovel. What's this made out of?
Bone. Antler.
It's bone.
Buffalo shoulder bone.
Yep, buffalo shoulder blade, like a scapula from a bison. So that's what this is. So this is the hoe. This is what they would use. And they'd also have like a stick, a digging stick that they would use. And then you guys learn about cache pits. You know what that is? Where they would. It's like their refrigerator, right? That's their root cellar. That's where they store all this stuff. You bet. And the other tool that they have is a digging stick. I didn't bring one, but it just looks like a stick. And those are the 3 main tools that they would use in their garden. You guys know how they would cook their food? What they would use to cook their food?
A fire.
A fire. What would they put their food? What kind of vessel would they put their food in? Yep.
The gut-looking thing.
Well, this thing. Well, they put. We'll talk about that in a little bit. That's from a bison.
Clay.
Clay. Yeah, pottery. pottery is one of the things that they would use. And today I brought some potsherds. These are artifacts that are hundreds of years old, but what it is here you can see it's a broken rim of a piece of pottery. And I'll pass it around, just be careful with it. It's, as long as you don't drop it on the floor, it'll probably be alright. It might break, yep. And that's like the rim of that pottery. And you can actually see where they decorated it. And here are some of the tools that they would use. These tools we made, but an archaeologist that visits the park made them for us. And this is what their tools would have looked like to make pottery. So here you can see there's a whole bunch of tools in these bags. In this bag, there's just like a little rock and some other pieces that they could use to make decorations. But what they would do is they'd get this dirt and sand and clay from the Missouri River and they'd make it. And then they take this in their hand and they kind of, on the outside, go like this, and that's what we could make decorations too. So it's kind of a neat thing. You can pass that around. And those decorations then would make imprints in the side of the pottery. And this is a big piece, and I'll hold it, but you can see. So if I go, can you see like the imprints in the side of this? So this could have been like from the bottom of a pot. And if you look, this pottery is pretty thin. So the thinner the pottery is, the better it was. So real high quality pottery is just very, very thin. And the thicker, it wasn't as well made. Or if it isn't as even. And they made pottery, a lot of pottery in the villages up till about the 1800s. Why do you think they quit making pottery as much like around in the 1800s? Because the villages were at Knife River by Stanton till the 1840s. So from like the 1200s, 1300s, and then especially like in the 15 and 1600s. And then in the 1800s, all of a sudden they didn't make much pottery. Any ideas why? Who came around, like, who was there in the 1800s?
Like the Spanish people who
traders. And what would they have brought with them? Pots and pans, right? Yeah, you bet. So then pottery wasn't as widely made. So here's one more cool piece of a pot. And here you can see all the decoration. So this is a big rim from a pot. Can you see that?
So wasn't that valuable because it's really thick?
Yeah, well this is thick because it's the rim. But it's still a little older. So this thing I'm holding in my hand was made probably, 250 years ago or 300 years ago. And a lot of stuff we keep in our museum, and nobody can really touch it unless you have gloves on. But certain things we have, we can take to schools because we don't really know where it came from.
Actually made out of wood.
Yeah, it's made out of wood. It's made out of a piece of like bark from a cottonwood tree. Yeah.
Do you have a whole or a half of a clay pot?
We have some big chunks, but we don't have any whole pots. The village where we are, people moved out of there for various reasons. So when they moved, do you think they left whole pots?
No.
No, they would have taken those. What they left was this stuff. Pretty much would have been garbage to them. So pottery was something that was important, obviously. It was important and they used it to cook in. Another thing that made these villages important, we talked about food. That's the crops they grew. But what about the men? What did they do?
When they went on a hunt, or they went on a hunting trip, they'd take pemmican.
They would. They'd take pemmican on their hunting trips, you bet. But so they hunted, right?
Yes.
So the men hunted, they protected the villages. What animal did they hunt a lot? Bison, right? Yeah, bison is very important to everything they did. I didn't bring a lot of stuff from bison today. The bison helmet. If you come to the park, you see a lot of like bison robes and hides and all that stuff. The one big piece of bison I brought today was this. What do you guys think this is? A bladder. What would they use this for?
Water jar.
Water, yeah. So that's a bison bladder. No, it won't hurt you.
Is it full of water?
No, air. So,
Don't smush it.
so the men would have, or women, they would have filled that up, and they would have had a canteen, right? Because you couldn't just keep going to the river to get water. You'd have to put it in a pot, or this here is more like something you could travel with. So the men could fill that up, and they'd have water for a while.
That must have been sick at first. They must have really washed it.
I bet they washed it out real well.
No,
For sure. Another thing that the men used, what did they use to hunt with? Like bows and arrows, right? That's what we hear a lot. So, and what did they, do you guys know what they made arrows out of?
Flint arrows.
Flint. Flint was a major thing around here in the villages. Flint was traded out of Knife River. Flint, this type of flint comes from between here and Killdeer, closer to Killdeer. So the further you go, it starts around here, but the further you go west, the better it is. And here's a piece of Knife River flint. So this is kind of what it looks like when it's just rock. That one's been chipped away a little bit. I'll pass this one too. So these are pieces of flint. Well, you get enough big enough piece of flint, a guy can take that and he can make it into something. Here, this is a replica of one, but it's flint. What is this?
Knife.
A knife, yeah. And this is a knife, and this is flint, piece of flint, and it's actually kind of sharp. Flint gets pretty sharp. So this is, see that?
We tried them.
That's a bone. Here, I'll hold this one. That's just a number that for cataloging purposes. You guys see the flint knife?
And then is the bottom part bone?
Yeah. And some guy that comes to the park in the summertime made this for us. So they would use this flint not only for like knives and arrows, but they'd use it for scrapers to scrape. Women would have flint scrapers that they would and knives that they would use to clean buffalo.
What do you think they could use for a flint that big?
For a piece of flint that big? Oh, lots of stuff. Probably they can make lots of different types of knives and arrowheads. See, here's how small some of the arrowheads were. I'll actually pass that around. Be careful again. Yeah, don't lose that one. And here's another arrowhead. We'll leave this one in the bag. But there's two different types of arrowheads.
Arrowhead?